For 32 years, Brody, believed my family was just complicated. That the glaring favoritism shown to my younger brother, Nate, was merely a quirk, not a core rot. I clung to this lie for over 3 decades, convincing myself I was loved just as much. Then, at a tense family dinner at Nate's place, he dropped to one knee and proposed to my fiancée, Allison. That single, deranged act didn't just shatter the evening, it obliterated my entire perception of reality. Did I ever truly know my family? The answer hit me like a physical blow: my inheritance, systematically stolen, trust documents, brazenly falsified, my own mother, attacking Allison in our home. All this unfolded in just a few short months. Meanwhile, she was still meticulously watering her prize-winning petunias, completely oblivious to the legal storm about to shatter her carefully constructed reality. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story resonates with you, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. My brother wore a mask his whole life. I just ripped it off. Growing up in Michigan, I was the firstborn in a family of 3 kids. I put in serious effort throughout my education, eventually earning admission to Michigan State University, where I pursued a degree in computer engineering. After finishing college, I landed a solid position in the tech field in Chicago. I spent close to a decade advancing my professional path before taking on a lucrative remote position that gave me the chance to return to my hometown. The deal was too appealing to turn down. An annual bump of $45,000 along with company equity already worth $30,000. My younger brother Nate, who's 29 now, has always held the top spot in our mom's eyes. She's never bothered to pretend otherwise. While I juggled part-time gigs to afford a second-hand car, Nate received a brand new one as a birthday gift when he turned 18. When I approached her about help with tuition, I got a long talk about standing on my own 2 feet. But when Nate decided to start a taco truck business, which failed in less than a year and drained $85,000 from their savings, our parents backed in completely, no questions asked. That unequal treatment isn't anything new. When we were younger, I'd get punished for minor slip-ups, like leaving my bike in the yard overnight. Meanwhile, Nate once tore through a neighbor's pricey flower beds on his bike, racking up hundreds in damage, and our mom pointed the finger at the neighbor for planting too close to the curb. I can still picture her writing the reimbursement check, playing the role of the wronged party, then rewarding Nate with ice cream so he could feel better about the whole ordeal. Even with everything that's happened, I've built a solid life on my own terms. I now hold a senior role as a software architect, earn a 6-figure salary, and enjoy a relaxed lifestyle in a sleek, contemporary condo. It's taken effort, but I've made a point to distance myself from the chaos that comes with my family. My sister, Katty, 27, gets it completely. She's a nurse who paid her own way through school and went through the same favoritism I did. She pulled night shifts at a greasy diner while studying during the early morning hours while Nate partied and lived rent-free in our parents' basement. Katty and I have a tradition, a monthly video chat to complain about our family. We usually end up placing bets on Nate's next ridiculous move. I won $50 last month by guessing he'd try online trading after watching some influencer. He lost $3,000 in under 48 hours. My closest friend, Derek, also 32, has been with me since middle school. We became friends after he defended me when a teacher wrongfully gave me detention. Derek saw that Nate was the one throwing paper airplanes, and when I got blamed, he spoke up. "It was that guy," he said. "Brody's just taking the heat for his brother like always." Derek got punished, too. But that moment cemented our bond. He's got this sharp, dry wit that cuts through any nonsense. These days, he works as a mechanical engineer for a defense company and never hesitates to call out BS, especially when it involves my family. For years, he's been telling me to stop looking for validation from my parents. I really should have listened. Every Saturday morning, we hit the court for basketball and take younger players to school with old school tricks and smart plays. Derek calls it dad ball. Less about style, more about hustle and mind games. The real battle comes afterward when we debate who has the Messier family. His dad bailed when he was a kid and his mom treated relationships like fashion accessories, so it's always a close call. About a year after I returned home, I met Allison, 30, at a local tech mixer downtown. She was giving a talk on digital strategy for B2B marketing. Sharp, funny, confident, and quick with sarcasm. She made 3 spot-on Star Wars jokes during her presentation, and I couldn't resist introducing myself. We hit it off right away. Within half a year, we were officially together. Allison was raised with 4 brothers, so she values honesty over sugar-coating. When she met Derek, they got into a 2-hour debate over whether lightsabers could actually function in the real world, while I just sat back and watched. She also holds a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Earned it after a guy followed her home in college. She's not someone you mess with, which made what happened later feel totally unreal. I didn't bring her up to my family immediately. Given the history, I've learned to keep relationships private until I know they're solid. By Christmas, I figured it was time to make the introductions. I didn't expect it to turn into a disaster. It all blew up the moment I showed them pictures of Allison. Nate took one look and flipped out. "Are you serious? That's my ex," he shouted. I was stunned. "Wait, what? You went out with Allison?" Apparently, they went on a few casual dates a few months before she and I met. According to Nate, it was some kind of epic romance that ended in heartbreak. Classic Nate. He stormed off to his room and slammed the door like a teenager. My mom hit me with the same disappointed face I've seen 1,000 times. Later that night, I asked Allison about it. She explained everything. They had gone out 3 times. She cut it off when he started acting too clingy way too fast. On the 3rd date, he mentioned her meeting his parents and planning a weekend trip. When she said that was moving too quickly, he showed up at her office the next day with flowers. That sealed the deal. She blocked his number right after. There was no way I was breaking up with Allison over some ridiculous drama. Nate wouldn't let it go. He kept whining to anyone who'd listen about how I stole his ex. Meanwhile, my mom started tossing out snide little jabs about family loyalty every time Allison's name came up. After a while, Nate finally dropped it, and I thought we were past it all. I couldn't have been more wrong. Jump ahead to this summer. After about 15 months together, I was certain Allison was the one. For her birthday, I pulled out all the stops, rented a private room at her favorite restaurant, invited both sides of the family and close friends, and spent 3 months of pay on the ideal ring. The night couldn't have gone better. She said yes. The place erupted in applause. It should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. Almost everyone was clapping except Nate, who got up and stormed out during the cheers. My mom trailed behind him like she was chasing a toddler in meltdown mode. On her way out, she gave me a look like I'd proposed just to spite Nate. My dad stayed behind, shrugged awkwardly, and joined the celebration. Later that evening, Derek pulled me aside and said, "Your mom literally ran after a grown man acting like a 5-year-old because someone else got engaged. That's nuts." Put that way, it was equal parts hilarious and depressing. For 2 months afterward, Nate barely spoke to me, which honestly was kind of a blessing. Then, totally out of nowhere, he invited Allison and me to dinner at his place. Said he wanted to smooth things over before the wedding. My parents and Caddy would be there, too, so we figured it was safe enough. Beforehand, Caddy texted me, "Sketchy timing. Want me to bring a taser?" I thought she was joking. We should have taken her more seriously. Dinner itself was tense but uneventful. My mom kept grilling Allison with pointed questions about her background and career like she was trying to trip her up, making subtle digs at her marketing job compared to Nate's never-ending startups. Allison didn't flinch. She even complimented my mom's awful haircut without so much as blinking. After dinner, we all moved into the living room for coffee. About 30 minutes in, Nate stood up and said he had something important to share. He launched into this over-the-top speech about how much it meant to have us all there for his special moment. Then, to my absolute disbelief, he dropped to one knee, pulled out a ring box, and asked Allison to marry him. The entire room froze. Allison looked like she'd just seen a ghost. "Stand up and put that ring away," she said firmly. My dad tried to de-escalate, but I was already across the room. I grabbed Nate by the collar and decked him, sending him flying into the coffee table. While my dad held me back, Nate started ranting about how Allison was only with me to hurt him for dumping her, and that her reaction proved she didn't actually love me. Meanwhile, my mom was shrieking at me for laying a hand on her precious son, completely ignoring what he'd just done. Caddy got Allison and me out of there before it got any worse. In the car, Allison was fuming. "I went on 3 dates with that clown. 3. And now, a year and a half later, he pulls this. What planet is he living on?" I had no good answer. Logic doesn't exist in Nate's world. It's been a week since then, and I'm still furious. My parents have been blowing up my phone, mostly defending Nate and accusing me of overreacting. My mom even had the nerve to say I owed him an apology for hitting him. He's sensitive. He was just trying to express his emotions. She texted me. I replied, so was I. By not letting him propose to my fiancée. Eventually, I called Nate and told him we needed to talk with Allison present. To my surprise, he agreed. We met at my apartment that weekend. Nate looked terrible. He sat in silence for a bit before I finally asked. "So, what on earth were you thinking?" "It's not how it looked," he said. "I wasn't serious." "You proposed to my fiancée. What part of that isn't serious?" He explained that he and his buddy Craig had been discussing Allison and came up with the theory that she only dated me to get back at Nate for dumping her. So Nate decided to test her by proposing. If she really had feelings for him, she'd accept or at least be flattered. "Her shutting me down like that showed she might actually love you," he said. Allison looked livid. "So you humiliated everyone just to play some twisted game. You realize how completely insane that is, right?" Nate shrugged. "I needed to be sure." Craig said. I cut him off. "Craig lives with his mom and thinks NFTs are a retirement plan. Maybe don't take life advice from him." For context, Craig is Nate's delusional college buddy. He's the one who convinced Nate to invest in crypto right before the market tanked. He's also the genius who designed the food truck logo, an image of a taco that looked unsettlingly like anatomy. These two combined couldn't power a nightlight. The conversation spiraled quickly. Nate tried to argue he had every right to test Allison because his words, brothers before hoes. He claimed if the roles were reversed, he'd have backed off. That was pure fantasy. Before leaving, Nate said, "I won't be at your wedding. I can't support this relationship knowing I was with her first, even if it was only a few dates." "You didn't have anyone, moron," I snapped. "And good news, you weren't invited." After he left, I filled my parents in. My dad actually seemed to get it, but my mom was still making excuses for him, acting like it was all one big misunderstanding. "He's emotional and really liked Allison," she said. "You should have checked with him before dating her." Allison, loud enough for her to hear, said, "We went out 3 times over a year ago. I barely remember his last name." Mom hung up. Later, Caddy called and said she was 100 on our side and couldn't believe Nate's behavior. "Told you, Mom created a monster," she said. "But she'll never admit it. Right now, I've pulled way back from both Nate and my parents. Allison and I are still moving forward with wedding plans, even though the family circus is casting a cloud over it all." That weekend, Derek came over with a pizza and his PlayStation. "Wedding planning break," he said. "You need to be blasting enemies on screen, not throwing punches at your real-life brother." He wasn't wrong. Roughly a month later, everything blew up again. This time, during the dinner my parents threw to celebrate Kat's promotion. Nate didn't show up conveniently busy. Katty had just been named charge nurse in the ER, and we were all at my parents' house to honor her. Over dinner, she started chatting about her upcoming European vacation, then tossed out, "Brody, I know Nate's not invited to your wedding, but you'd be okay with him coming to my birthday party next month, right?" I gave a casual shrug. "It's your birthday. Invite whoever you want." That was the spark. My mom, who'd been quietly stewing all night, suddenly erupted. "Wait, you're seriously still not inviting Nate to your wedding?" "I thought that was just you being dramatic," I replied plainly. "Nope, he's still not invited." That set her off. She launched into a rant about how immature I was being and accused me of clinging to grudges. I reminded her again that Nate and I had mutually agreed he wouldn't come. Then she threw out, "You're trying to tear the family apart. You're just bitter because Nate has charm and you don't." I raised an eyebrow. "Charm? The guy wears crypto t-shirts and hasn't held a real job since college. His idea of being clever is quoting Joe Rogan. But sure, in your eyes, he's some combo of George Clooney and Elon Musk." I took a breath and added, "Anyway, this dinner is supposed to be about Katty. Let's not derail it." My mom stormed off into the kitchen. After that, the mood was painfully stiff. My dad tried to salvage the evening by asking Katty a bunch of questions about her new role, but the vibe was already ruined. 3 days later, my mom showed up at our place completely unannounced. Allison was home working remotely and I had just walked in from a meeting. My mom didn't wait for an invitation. She barged in and immediately started demanding that we resolve the Nate issue once and for all. Then came the lecture. "You should be secure enough in your relationship not to feel threatened by Nate's little joke." "Proposing to my fiancée isn't a joke," I said flatly. She insisted I was being vindictive for excluding him and that it was time I grew up. I reminded her again. Nate and I both agreed he wouldn't come. If she had a problem with that, she needed to bring it up with him. That sparked a shouting match. And then she delivered her final blow. "If Nate's not welcome, then neither am I." I stayed calm. "That's your decision. I'm not going to beg you to attend." She blinked like I just slapped her. "You're seriously okay with your own mother skipping your wedding? Wouldn't be the first milestone you've missed because of Nate, would it?" That landed. She skipped my college graduation because Nate had a cold. She didn't show up to my first professional award ceremony because Nate had a one-line part in a local theater play as a tree. Literally, she called me heartless and stormed out. Within hours, my phone was a disaster. Relatives from her side, cousins, aunts, uncles, all messaging and calling to say I was being selfish and disrespecting my mom. That night, my dad called me quietly. "Listen, your mom's out of line this time. Nate's behavior was completely unacceptable and he has to deal with the consequences. I'll be at your wedding no matter what she chooses." I was stunned. For the first time ever, my dad wasn't siding with my mom when it came to Nate. Maybe after 3.5 decades, he'd finally stopped enabling it. Meanwhile, Nate was busy on social media posting vague messages about family betrayal and how blood doesn't mean loyalty. My mom was commenting hearts and supportive messages under everything he posted. He even put together a Spotify playlist called Songs for Traitors, full of whiny mid-2000s emo tracks. Allison got caught in the crossfire. My mom started messaging her directly, trying to guilt-trip her into convincing me to let Nate come. When Allison ignored the messages, Mom spread rumors that Allison was manipulating me and tearing me away from the family. Most of my mom's side decided to boycott the wedding. Luckily, my dad's side still planned to show up. Katty promised she'd be there no matter what. So, we pivoted. With the guest list basically sliced in half, we scaled back the wedding. The upside, we saved nearly 15 grand on catering and venue costs. Money we ended up using for an upgraded honeymoon in New Zealand. 2 weeks into the family standoff, my mom popped up at our front door again. No warning. Allison texted me at work. Your mom's here. Says she wants to talk. Should I let her in? I told her I'd be home in 20 minutes and that it was up to her if she felt safe letting her inside. When I walked in, they were both at the dining table. Allison had made coffee, but my mom hadn't touched it. The tension was heavy. Mom started with what seemed like an olive branch. I've been reflecting. I don't want this situation to tear us apart. Family should matter more. For a split second, I thought maybe she was ready to take responsibility. Then she turned to Allison and said, I was hoping to find you here alone. I think if Brody weren't influencing you, you'd see things more clearly about Nate. Allison replied calmly, respectfully. I wouldn't talk about this without Brody present. It involves him, his brother, and his family. My mom's expression hardened. So now you need his permission to speak. I thought you were supposed to be independent. I stepped in. Mom, enough. If you came here to insult Allison, the door is right there. She ignored me and kept aiming her words at Allison. Before you came along, our family was just fine. Now Brody thinks he's better than us. I wonder where that idea came from. Allison, keeping her cool, responded, actually, before I entered the picture, Brody had already worked hard to become successful. He built his own path without relying on anyone. Then she stood up. You should leave. Let's revisit this conversation when emotions aren't so high. And that's when my mom lost it completely. As Allison walked toward the front door, my mother suddenly lunged and yanked her backward by the hair. Allison stumbled, hit the floor, and within seconds, my mom was on top of her, screaming wildly and clawing at her face. I rushed over, dragged my mother off her, and forced her out of the house. She stood outside, pounding on the door for nearly 10 minutes before finally storming off. Allison was shaken up, but thankfully her injuries were minor. Some scratches, a bruised arm, and a small patch of missing hair. I immediately called both my dad and Caddy to explain what happened. My dad was stunned, but still tried to defend her. She's just been under a lot of pressure lately, he said. So have I snapped. Yet somehow, I haven't physically attacked anyone. Caddy, who has seen plenty of domestic violence cases in her line of work as a nurse, came over right away to check on Allison. She strongly urged us to report it. This isn't just family drama, she said firmly. This was a physical attack. Allison didn't want to involve the authorities at first. But after we explained why having an official record might be important if things got worse, she agreed. The police who responded told us that even if Allison didn't press charges, the case could still move forward based on the evidence. They also recommended considering a restraining order. One of the officers pulled me aside while Allison gave her statement. I deal with family blow-ups all the time. He said, this isn't just some emotional outburst. Your mother went way over the line. He handed me a card for a family law attorney who focuses on protection orders. Surprisingly, Nate stayed completely silent through all of this. I texted him what happened. His reply, that's insane. I'm sorry. No trying to deflect, no attempts to justify anything, just a simple acknowledgement that our mother had crossed a serious boundary. Later, I called Derek. He showed up with burgers from our favorite place and listened while I laid everything out. When I finished, he just shook his head. Man, I've been telling you since high school. Your mom's not right. Maybe now you'll believe me. He even helped me draft a no-contact email to send to my mother. It was brief and direct. After your physical attack on Allison, I'm cutting ties. Do not come to our home. Do not contact us through phone, email, or anyone else. Any future communication will be handled by our attorney. This is final. I blocked her on every app and told my dad I wouldn't speak to her again until she got professional help and made a sincere apology to Allison. Allison and I also started seriously thinking about relocating after the wedding. She'd been offered a transfer to her company's Atlanta office, and since I work remotely, moving was easy. The idea of starting fresh, far away from this toxic mess, was tempting. The next morning, we went to the courthouse and filed for a temporary restraining order. Based on the police report and photos of Allison's injuries, the judge granted it immediately. For the next 90 days, my mother was legally barred from coming within 500 feet of us or our home. Now, here's something I haven't mentioned yet. Money. And it's important. 5 years ago, my grandfather passed away and left a sizable inheritance to be divided equally among his 3 grandchildren, me, Caddy, and Nate. My parents were named trustees of the estate until we either turned 30 or got married, whichever came first. My grandfather was a brilliant entrepreneur who built a chain of hardware stores across the Midwest and sold the business for millions before retiring. Each grandchild was supposed to receive around $450,000, not including income, from some rental properties he still owned. But here's the thing. I barely saw any of that money. Every time I asked about it, my parents gave vague responses, said it was tied up, or claimed a big portion had gone to family needs. Caddy had been told the same. After the incident with my mom, I decided to dig deeper. I requested financial records from the trust, which by law my parents had to provide as trustees. What I found was exactly what I feared. They had been siphoning off funds, mostly from mine and Kat's portions, to fund Nate's lifestyle and cover his failed ventures. His 300-month apartment paid straight out of the trust. His car, a $142K SUV, paid in full. That taco truck business that failed, funded with $185K from the trust, his custom-built gaming computer, $5,500, all of it came from what was supposed to be our inheritance. Meanwhile, I had received $15,000 total for college expenses. Caddy, only $12,000 over the course of 5 years from a fund that was supposed to give each of us nearly $500,000. The paper trail was airtight. Regular automatic transfers from the trust to Nate's checking account, $4,000 a month for living expenses, payments for his credit cards, his car insurance, his phone bill, his streaming services, even his premium memberships on dating apps. All neatly documented. I consulted a lawyer who specializes in trust and estate law. He confirmed what I already suspected. My parents had breached their fiduciary duty by misusing the trust and unfairly favoring one beneficiary. With Kat's full support, I filed a civil lawsuit against them for misappropriating funds, breaking their responsibilities as trustees, and violating the trust agreement. The evidence was rock solid. Bank transfers, receipts, lease agreements, all traced back to the trust. When they were served with the lawsuit, chaos erupted. My dad called in a panic. "Brody, can we please talk this out? This is all just a misunderstanding." "The documents speak for themselves," I told him. "Nothing's unclear." Then my mom got on the call, her tone suddenly syrupy sweet. "Honey, we were always going to pay it back. We just wanted to help your brother out of a tough time." 5 years is a pretty long, rough patch, I replied. "And that money wasn't yours to help him with. Grandpa left it to us, not to you." The lawsuit hit like a bomb. My attorney, a former financial crimes prosecutor, took the case personally. He uncovered even more than I expected. Not only had my parents misused funds, they had also altered some of the trust's mandatory annual reports to cover their tracks. The legal action sent shock waves through their finances. Once proceedings began, their accounts were temporarily locked down, cutting off the money pipeline Nate relied on. As the case hit public records, their credit tanked. My dad had been eyeing retirement the following year. He had to scrap that plan. My mom, bitter as ever, took a job answering phones at a dental clinic, a position she viewed as beneath her. The country club membership gone. They couldn't afford the monthly dues anymore. Their social life collapsed quietly. No one confronted them directly, but the silence was telling. Invitations to the glamorous dinner parties stopped. Turns out stealing from your own children doesn't go over well in wealthy golf circles. Meanwhile, Nate was spiraling. Bills piled up, rent notices arrived, and his credit cards hit their limits. Reality was finally knocking. He couldn't open new accounts. He had no job history and a mountain of debt. When the power company cut his electricity mid-winter, he spent 3 days without heat or light. About a week into his crisis, Nate gave me a call. "Hey man," he said, trying to sound casual. "I know things have been rough between us, but I'm seriously struggling. Could you lend me something till all this blows over? I swear I'll pay you back." "Can't help you," I said. "Every dime I've got is going toward legal fees, trying to recover what was stolen from me and Caddy. I'm about to be evicted, Brody." "That sounds like your responsibility. I hear Target's hiring." He paused, then hung up. A month after we filed the suit, Allison and I got married in a much smaller ceremony, just 50 guests. My father came alone and kept things civil. Caddy brought her boyfriend. Nate and my mom were noticeably absent, just as we wanted. Derek, my best man, kept the mood alive. His speech included, "I've never seen someone survive this much friendly fire from their own family and still win." The laughter from those who knew the full story was almost too loud. The case wrapped up in settlement before reaching court. My parents agreed to repay the money on a plan that wouldn't leave them broke, but would require serious downsizing. Their vacation home up north sold for a loss. They gave up their massive house and moved into a small condo in a neighborhood they once mocked. The prize boat was the first thing to go, sold to cover the early payments. The remaining trust money was placed under a neutral trustee who followed strict rules. I got my full share right away since I was over 30 and married. Caddy would receive hers when she turned 30. Nate's part stayed locked up until he either reached 30 or showed a full year of steady employment. When he found out, he exploded. "That's my money," he texted furiously. 1-3 is yours, I replied. "And you'll get it per grandpa's terms for school, actual businesses, or when you meet the conditions. The days of blank checks are over." Once the judge signed the agreement, the funds hit my account. After taxes and fees, it came out to $397,000. Caddy would get a similar amount on her birthday. The rest, around $450,000, mostly Nate's, remained secured. Some already marked to repay what my parents had misused. The first thing I did paid off our house. Then I booked a honeymoon the right way. 2 luxurious weeks in New Zealand flying first class. Finally, I started building an investment portfolio. Grandpa would have been proud. I didn't mention any of this to Nate. Letting him sweat, thinking everything was still in limbo, felt appropriate. 6 months have passed since the settlement, and we've officially relocated to Atlanta. Allison is excelling at her new job, and I was promoted to lead architect at my company. We bought a home in a quiet suburb, spacious, peaceful, and perfect. 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, and a big backyard. We adopted a German Shepherd mix from the shelter. We named him Rocket. He's smart, eager to learn, and already follows a dozen commands. Allison jokes, "He's better trained than anyone in your family." My parents haven't stopped reaching out. I get a steady flow of emails and texts, some apologetic, some just updates on Nate, some hinting they want to come visit. I keep my replies short and my boundaries firm. Before we moved, we renewed the restraining order. Now that we're hundreds of miles away, it hasn't been necessary. Dad calls monthly. He usually updates me on their financial situation, tight but manageable, and his therapy progress. He's trying to unlearn the enabling habits he fell into and set new boundaries, especially with Nate and my mom. But the most unexpected shift, Nate, with his money train gone, he got a job at a tech retail shop. Caddy says based on their occasional chats that he's actually sticking with it, showing up, earning paychecks, and maybe, just maybe, starting to grow up. Just a few weeks ago, I got an email from Nate that completely threw me off. Been reflecting on everything. That proposal stunt way out of line. I get that now. It wasn't even really about Allison. It was about me being bitter. You were moving forward and I was stuck. Mom and Dad let me coast through life and I took full advantage of it. That's on me. I'm not asking for a clean slate. I just wanted to own up to it. Reality hits different when you're actually working and earning. Please tell Allison I'm sorry for how I treated you both. You didn't deserve that. I didn't reply right away. I needed time to sit with it. After talking it over with Allison, I sent him a short note. Appreciate the message. It means a lot. Good luck at work. A week after that, a package showed up from back home. Inside was a $500 check and a note that read, "First payment toward what I owe." It's not much, but it's something. Compared to the money siphoned out of the trust, it was a drop in the ocean. Still, it was the first time Nate had ever accepted accountability for anything, and that meant something. My mom, on the other hand, still doesn't get it. Her latest email said, "I don't understand why you're still punishing us when Nate has clearly moved on." She's never realized this wasn't about revenge. It's about consequences. She still sends passive-aggressive messages. Just last month, she wrote a long note about how real families forgive and everyone slips up sometimes. I forwarded it to Derek. He responded with a gift of a guy playing the tiniest violin. My dad's slowly starting to own up to things. Since beginning therapy, he sent me a message that said, "I was weak. It was easier to keep the peace with your mother and Nate than to speak up. I let you and Caddy down as a father, and I'm trying to do better now." Caddy visits us in Atlanta every few months. She recently got engaged and is planning a destination wedding in Hawaii next year. Nate made the guest list. Our parents didn't. Her decision and I support it completely. Her fiancé is a pediatric surgeon she met at work and they're looking at homes near us in Atlanta. The thought of having her nearby again feels like getting a piece of my life back. The inheritance from Grandpa changed our future in a real way. Allison and I have already opened college savings accounts for our future kids and bought a cozy vacation cabin in the North Carolina mountains. We live modestly, no sports cars or flashy spending, but the peace of mind that comes with financial stability is priceless. Allison and I are in the best place we've ever been. Putting distance between ourselves and all the family chaos has done wonders for both of us. We've started talking seriously about kids on our own timeline in a home filled with calm and love. Derek visits once a month now. His job has him traveling through the Southeast regularly and he always makes time to crash at our place. He and Allison get along almost too well. They tag team their teasing like it's a sport. Last time he stayed over, he looked around the house and said with a grin, "You know the best part of this place? It's just far enough that your mom can't show up without notice." Can't argue with that. Sometimes I think about how that unhinged proposal Nate made all those months ago kicked off a chain reaction none of us saw coming. My mom lost her grip. My dad finally stood up for something. Nate faced consequences for the first time in his life. And I stopped chasing the approval I was never going to get. It wasn't the path I expected, but it led me here. And for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace.